What's up, Mike Nowstalgia? Dave here with a review of Star Wars Tales of the Underworld, the latest Star Wars animated anthology series out now on Disney Plus, 6 more episodes. Of course, this follows up Tales of the Empire from last year and the original incarnation, Tales of the Jedi. I think it's become increasingly clear with this project that this stuff is not for Star Wars normies. The goal, artistically, creatively, of the Tales anthology series is clearly to fill in narrative gaps, lore gaps within the Star Wars saga that we already know. As a result, we're spending time with characters that are not super well known to the average fan. Of course, Tales of the Jedi started off with people everyone knows, people everyone likes, Count Dooku and Ahsoka Tano. Tales of the Empire, though, quickly got away from that, featuring Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth. Certainly a step down in terms of recognition, name-wise, character-wise, right? And then Tales of the Underworld, I guess, is perhaps a half step back, where we're now spending time with Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane. The issue with Star Wars Tales of the Underworld is nothing new. This is simply not enough time to spend with any of these characters to feel like any kind of meaningful story has been told. The Cad Bane origin story, for what it was, worked fine, albeit a lot of familiar Western tropes, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was effective. However, the Asajj Ventress story feels like a complete tease given her surprise appearance in The Bad Batch, and while Tales of the Underworld does briefly acknowledge how she came back to life following her death in the Dark Disciple novel, this hardly fills in the gaps between that and her appearance in The Bad Batch. I'm okay with the Tales series very much being for hardcore fans, filling in narrative gaps with characters that the average fan probably doesn't even know. But ultimately, I think we just got our expectations too high following Tales of the Jedi, which featured Count Dooku killing Yaddle during The Phantom Menace. That was tremendous, and we just haven't approached that again in terms of stakes or narrative interest. We just have to remember that the Tales series is supplemental and just treat it for what it is. And I don't have a big problem with that. I think in terms of creativity on the animated front, I look more towards the Star Wars Vision series that I'm very much excited is returning in the fall for season 3, because I think that, because it's not, constrained by the canon of Star Wars, gets to experiment and do a lot of cool stuff. Getting into Tales of the Underworld specifically, I think again, like Asajj Ventress, she dies off screen in the Dark Disciple novel, which of course was an adaptation of unfilmed Clone Wars scripts, of course, when Clone Wars was canceled the original first time. And that was, I think, a cool, piece of the Clone Wars multimedia project in terms of taking a significant storyline and giving it an end, of course, on the page, the way it was. And, since then, Quinlan Vos has appeared in name in terms of the path creation that came to be in the Kenobi series. And I think his relationship with Ventress, again, something that we saw just little bits of in the Clone Wars back in the day, I think could have been ripe for what this series, I think, could have been, right? Because we know Quinlan's out there. We know Asajj Ventress is out there, of course, resurrected in the beginning of Tales of the Underworld. I think that would have been something that more fans would have had some invested interest in versus having her spend time with a, new Padawan who survived Order 66. Nothing super new there. In that first episode, too, you see them fight a unnamed Inquisitor, but a new face. And then, I feel like I bristle a little bit at another new Inquisitor showing up. I feel like those ranks need to be small. I think in general, too, the canon version of the Inquisitors has not been nearly as interesting as the Legends version. I don't usually explicitly make that kind of distinction in terms of canon versus Legends differences, but I think this is one where it's pretty clear and distinct, the differences. And apart from the Grand Inquisitor, as the original villain of Rebels, there hasn't been anything too cool with the Inquisitors. And again, if we had more time with stuff, I think it would be more interesting, right? Tales of the Empire, Barriss starting out as an Inquisitor, really appealing, but they just move past it so quickly because these are 3-episode arcs and they're short episodes, right? We're talking about 45 minutes for the whole story. I think someone as significant as Asajj Ventress could have used all 6 episodes, and Cad Bane, people like him for what he is, right? A cool, badass bounty hunter, right? Like the top gun in town before Boba Fett came of age, right? I think we like Cad, and his appearance in the Book of Boba Fett was pretty cool, despite that show's misgivings. but I don't know if we were clamoring for the Cad Bane origin story, you know. That being said, I thought that stuff was fine. You know, again, I think it was cool to be on the Duros home planet, and I think the architecture design, a very like 1920s urban setting with the subways on the rails in the sky. Like I think design wise, it was pretty cool. You know, in terms of him and his friend becoming enemies, like you kind of know the beats of it because it's in the past of Cad Bane. It's not like the Morgan Elsbeth Tales of the Empire stuff where there's this huge unknown, or Barriss Offee where her fate was unknown. There was so much theorizing about what happened to her that actually made sense to answer it in a certain way. Asajj, though, it's like you bring her back when you thought she was dead with no explanation in the Bad Batch. And it's like, I'm not worried about it being explained and having my hand held with stuff like that, right? I thought she came back somehow cool. And they explain it, and I think in a perfectly reasonable way. Dark, Night Sister magic on Dathomir. That's why she came back. She got resurrected somehow by Talzin. Cool. That's good enough for me. But what is the character going to be now? Because that's another Force user, another person swinging a lightsaber during the dark times. And I feel like that's something that you need to tread lightly with, you know? So I'm curious. It's like, what is next? Like, is this just like a soft intro for the next animated Star Wars series featuring, we assume, Omega from the Bad Batch and her relationship with Ventress at the very end of the Bad Batch? Is that where we're going? Is that what this was? There's got to be something, right? Because otherwise, why would you bring her back for nothing too significant? So, yeah, again, like I think like these shows, these anthology series, more often than not, we want more time with who we're spending time with. Otherwise, it just feels thin because, again, it's just not a lot of time spent. And like again, I look back to Dooku in Tales of the Jedi and like having Yaddle's fate be determined, and then Yaddle's death during the Phantom Menace. Like seeing all of that, like I think that was like transcendent stuff. You know, similar to how Clone Wars Season 7 takes place during the events of Revenge of the Sith at the very end there, right? Like, that kind of stuff is amazing. And that's like fucking catnip for fans, right? In terms of true lore filling in. I love that kind of stuff. Barriss Offee's fate being explained a bit more, fine, happy with it, right? But then, like, Cad Bane's origin, what's up with Morgan Elsbeth, there's not stuff that's that interesting. You know, if you're picking nits about the subjects. So honestly, if I'm thinking more about it, I would love to just go back to like Tales of the Jedi again, like talk about Jedi subjects again. Yeah, like those are the characters I want to spend the most time with, right? So, and I think like prequel era stuff, Clone Wars era stuff is probably the coolest. Like, you know, I mean, I think the layup with all of this is Sifo Dyas. Do the Sifo Dyas story. That would be cool. We know the beats of it, but just seeing more of that would be cool. That's my pitch for the next Tales, Sifo Dyas. But let me know, what do you think of Tales of the Underworld? Do you agree that it's okay for what it is, but deserves more attention to have more effective narratives? Do you wish different characters were being focused on? What do you think of it? Where do you feel about Star Wars animated projects right now? Let me know. And for more TV reviews, more Star Wars reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time.